we need to understand the importance of obedience. And uma ngikhuluma ngeSabatha, I'm starting at the beginning of obedience. I'm starting at the beginning of obedience. Because our Israel, they at the beginning, they got lost. Not because of what they had done, but consequences of their forefathers' actions at the beginning. So Israel ufika eGibhithe through uJoseph nokunikelwa abafowabo lukaJoseph. And of course abafowabo bangenwe uSathane womona nokunqanela the kind of relationship that their brother had with their father Jacob. And so they sell their brother, and later on their brother ends up in Egypt. Amen. And how they get into Egypt, as you understand scripture, they get into Egypt actually as a way of an escape from the famine. So it was God's way of saving them. But over time, baphenduka baba yigqili eGibhithe. So they are ukufika kwabo eGibhithe nokuzalwa kwabo eGibhithe, it was an accident. Let's call it that. It was an accident. It was people abangenwa uSathane and their brother ended up in Egypt. And a whole generation and multi-generations find themselves under slavery. And of course, ukona kwabafowabo does not necessarily mean ukuthi lokho kwakungaphambene nomthetho kaNkulunkulu. But perhaps we may assume, let's just be generous and say, babengazi ukuthi kona kuyisono kangakanani. But let me put it differently, not ukuthi kwakuyisono, babengazi ukuthi the consequence yokwenza kwabo iyobafikisaphi. Babengawazi umphumela walokho abakwenzayo. And so they were short-sighted in thinking, by selling our brother, we will remain at home and hopefully we will find favor with our father. Went back and they said, no, udliwe zilwane hlane. And hopefully we'll find favor with our brother and we will not have competition. And one might assume that they may even have had a pact amongst each other that says nobody's going to try and be better than us or the other. Sonke siyalingana, sonke siyafana kubaba. And so ungazama ukuba favorite kababa wena because nawe sizophinda njengoJoseph, you know. So they must have had a brotherly pact yokuthi we are going to be equals to dad and we are all going to serve him because we all want a share of his blessing and we all want a share of his inheritance, which it was becoming clear that the youngest brother was the preferred one who was going to inherit a lot more than the other brothers. And that's how Mona got into them. But they were short-sighted and they didn't understand the legacy. They didn't understand the legacy of their emotions, their feelings, their jealousy. They didn't understand the legacy of their actions. In that moment, it felt right. Let me even go further and say it is possible, Uguti. They forgave themselves already. They forgave themselves in saying, Asimbulalanga. He just got lost. Simbegenda anyway he got lost. So there's no blood in our hands. We go back to dad and we lie. But already they forgave themselves because they knew ukuthi akubanga muntu. Hallelujah. Amen. But they did not have foresight. And they could never have had foresight of the legacy of their actions. Because the nature of these things, especially the spiritual things, is that they go a long way beyond the action today. They go a long way beyond the action today. And it affects generation after generation. It affects a nation. The actions of a couple of men, in the same way that the actions of two people in the Garden of Eden affected the entire humanity. They did not have the foresight at that moment of the effect of their disobedience over humanity. They could not have. They didn't have the ability to see into the future. So when we talk about obedience, and when you talk about obedience, we, in the same way that when you talk about blessing, when you talk about a blessing, I think when we talk about a blessing, we have some kind of an idea of how it's going to impact future generations. But even then, you know, I was talking about that last week in meeting, and the scripture says, even with that kind of understanding and some kind of foresight, you can never know what God will do. When God said, I've blessed your family, and God gives you a blessing, and God confirms a blessing over you, you can never know what it's going to do for generations. And so some of us look at a blessing and say, hey, and your children call it a blessing because you live a good life, you live in a good home, you've got 2 or 3 cars in the garage, you go on holiday, you've got all of these things, they go to good schools, you've got food, you know, you live a happy life, there's peace in the house, there's happiness, and you have a blessed life. But when I say you need to chase for more blessing, I'm saying there's more to what you have. Amen. Yes, we need to preserve that, but there's also more to what you have. And so your children can be blessed more than you are blessed. Amen. And so you take them to school, you educate them, you expect them to go to school and finish school and work and do well, start businesses and do well, and be okay and live off that and be okay and move away from home and support you in your old age. Can I tell you that? That's an average life. Amen. Amen. That's actually an average life. And for some people, that's even below average. There's more blessing to that. Amen. There's more blessing than that. Amen. And then somebody says, okay, no, but yeah, maybe they'll go into parliament, become a governor of the Reserve Bank, or become a minister, or maybe become a president, and you know, have influence over so much, and maybe become a successful businessman that's not only owning one business, but have got multiple businesses, and that is a blessing. And they can start impacting a couple of lives. Now that's a blessing. But can I tell you something? That's even average too. Amen. And to somebody else, that's still below average. There is more. Amen. Amen. There is more to it. But you will not have the ability to know how much more God can bless your family until you arrive to the blessing. Amen. Until you get to the actual blessing, you will not know how deep your blessing goes until you arrive at it. Which is why it is important to constantly work your blessing. Sometime last year, I preached about this. To constantly work your blessing. To constantly mine your blessing. To constantly nurture your blessing. Go deep into it. Because you know there is more. There is more. Like people who explore in mining, they know there is more. They drill further, they go down, they go deeper. There's more to your blessing. Amen. And perhaps as a start, as we get into 2020, let us not be satisfied with average blessing. Maybe with an average manifestation of a blessing. And say, I am blessed because ungono kunati. Now because ungono kunati, a few of us, and then you say I'm blessed. Go to the real big boys out there and see if you are really blessed. And then when you get there and you are blessed, go further, go to the even more real boys out there and see if you are really blessed. So there is levels of manifestation of this blessing. But there comes a point where you think you are blessed, and you're flying in a private jet, and you sleep in 7-star hotels. You've got servants all over the place, and you think you are blessed. Yeah? And then you realize, no, actually, I've moved far away from the blessing. I was blessed up until a point, and I got into a point where things were just happening, deriving from my blessing. Things were just happening around me, but I was moving away from my blessing. Amen. So there are things that will come your way in your life that emanate from the blessing. And if you talk about the ancient nations, they have that. They've got things that emanate from blessing. And their lives continue to flourish. But they have moved away from the blessing. But the material things that were born out of the blessing keep on providing. And so we think that somebody's blessed, but actually they are moving away, because you need to look at your blessing from all dimensions: material, emotional, spiritual, psychological, physical, and spiritual, and say, I'm blessed because all of these things are in order in my life. Amen. So you could be doing very well materially, and that material wealth comes from your blessing, but you are doing terribly physically. There's a popular businessman here in Johannesburg, not going to name names, one of the top businessmen. He's doing very well, has amassed so much wealth, has built so much. He's great materially, but physically his life is not worth living. This is me saying. He's wasted his life. He has wasted his life. At his age, this is somebody that should be living a comfortable life, going all over the place, enjoying the young wife that he has, because most of them tend to then, be blessed with a young wife as well. These things happen. But his health is struggling and failing, not because he's of poor health. His health is struggling and failing because he made bad choices around his health as he was moving and progressing in his life. So you may be blessed materially and find that physically you are struggling and suffering. We cannot call it a blessing. And you may be blessed materially and even physically, but your family is crumbling. You may be blessed even with your family, but your spirituality is non-existent. So what we call a blessing is when God touches every area of your life. Amen. Every single area of your life. And guess what? You may be blessed spiritually and be struggling financially. Even that is bad, Basalwane. Amen. We're not the kind of church that says, no, a blessing must show. Amen. A blessing must show. When God blesses you, your finances must be blessed. Amen. In other words, we cannot say a person is blessed, but they're living an average life. They are blessed, but there's more to this blessing. Amen. And they need to mind there's more to your blessing. So what I'm saying is, when you are blessed, and you are walking in your blessing, and you are speaking the blessing, and you are telling your children how blessed they are, and you are, for lack of a better term, executing your blessing. In other words, you are using it. You are using it and applying it where you need to apply it, and it's working for you. You can never tell how much further can you be blessed. You can never tell how much more can you be blessed until you get to it. And when you get to it, you're like, oh my God, I never knew there was so much more that you could do for me. I never knew that you had so much more in store for me. I thought that was it. Sometimes as an old man, you've lived, or an old woman, you've lived your life, you lived a successful life, a great life, and God has blessed you, you've raised your children well, they become super successful. And God keeps you to see it. And God confirms it in your heart to say, this is the blessing I promised to you, or I promised to your father. And you sit there in your wheelchair, God forbid, and you say, oh my God, I knew we were blessed. I knew we came from a blessed family, but I never knew that my children or my children's children will get to this point.
Amen.
And that is God. Hallelujah. The legacy of a blessing continues.
Amen.
The legacy of disobedience. That's what we are about today. I know this is one of the difficult services. Because we're like, oh, but can we just linger a little longer, just celebrate the new year? Getting into the new year without a clear goal around how you are going to correct your path, how you are going to walk straight, and how you are going to satisfy the requirements of God on your life is as good as not having gone into the new year at all. May as well just continue. The year just continues. It's an important service, it's an important beginning of the year. For me, it's like a roadblock. We set the roadblock and we check everybody's tickets spiritually. We check your disc, is it still valid? We check the tires, we check the lights. We take no bribes, maybe. If you speak to me nicely, I might just. But we take no bribes. We simply check. As you get into this highway, as you get into this open road, as you get into this life, as you get into this year, as you look forward to all the things that you are looking forward to, is your spiritual vehicle in good condition, in excellent condition? Are you okay with God? Are you in good standing with God? It's not a service to hate. It's not a service to find it is so burdensome. I don't know what your feelings are, but I can only imagine that this is not one of those exciting services that we normally have throughout the year. This is one of those services that a lot of people dread. It's one of those services that time and again we would ask, but why must we do this all the time? And why must we repeat this all the time? And why must I say this to you? Like, there's a whole lot of questions. Let me tell you, the devil makes us question this kakhulu at this time, because like, why bebuza indaba engahlangene nabo? Why befuna wena ubatshela indaba zakho? This is what he says to some of us. Bona batshela bani zabo? And for some reason you start pointing out ukuthi lamalunga lawa azothi uNkulunkulu anhlamathelele, but now whatever you see. Let me tell you, this is not about us trying to make your life miserable. It's not about us trying to be traditional even. It's not about us trying to remind you of the negative things about your life. It is about us trying to say, are you ready to claim the blessing
Amen.
that God has put on your path?
Amen.
Are you in a position to fully claim the blessing? Secondly, are you ready and able to root out the things that have been blocking your blessing, such that you have not led a fulfilling life in some parts of your life? Are you at a place where you are willing to confront the things that have separated you from God, or the things that have created a shadow over you, such that you are not fully visible before God? Are you ready to confront and deal with the things that make your spirituality heavy sometimes and not light, such that you can just fly with the angels? Are you ready for the graduation, the promotion that comes with being obedient to God? It's a caring service. It's a caring ritual. Very few churches do this. And this is why for some people it becomes very strange and odd, because like, why are we doing this when nobody else is doing this? Now, confession is a biblical mandate. It is a biblical principle, as you would have heard this morning, I'm assuming. It is a biblical requirement. So as a church that is Bible-centered, we look at all the things, all the sacraments, all the requirements in the Bible that say, if you want to be right with God, if you want to see the face of God, if you want to receive favor in the land of the living and see the goodness of God in the land of the living, these are the things that you need to do. And secondly, we are a church that understands that none of us are perfect.
Amen.
We are a church that understands that humanity is foul. We are born into sin, and sin grows naturally. It grows naturally out of us. And the church has put these instruments, these mechanisms linked to the Bible to assist us as we walk towards the path of holiness. Amen. Hallelujah.
Amen.
And so, whilst not many churches might do it, it is still a requirement biblically.
Amen.
Some churches that do it differently. They might not do it the way that we do it. They do it differently, but there's still confession. And other churches, other churches have what they call public confession. And public confession could be somebody coming to front and saying, or public confession could be the entire church as the corner and having a leader as umtocha or whoever leading the church in confession. I don't know what the recital is, but something along the lines of Siyavuma Sigonile, and we all worship. But there is no personal and individual accountability. Because your sin is different to my sin.
Amen.
And her sin is different to your sin.
Amen.
And so whilst public confession and corporate confession, as it is called, in a form of a recital of some sort in a church, has its place to raise the consciousness and awareness of people towards sin, individual and personal accountability is the best.
Amen.
Because bazalwane asinge nqola ka Elijah ezulwini sonke.
Amen.
Sihamba ngawani.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Sihambe sonke ukuthi hayi sivumile now uvumile asivume now uvumele. Or in other places izolo sivumelo bavunyelwa umpriest or the leader will pray for confession and there's a special offering. These are practices in different churches and religions. There's an offering for that, and I would then pray for your sins. I cannot be creative in my prayer in the same way that some people get in their sinning life. Some people get very creative that even we can't imagine the things they do. So, njengokwenza kwakho kumele uzikhulumele,
Amen.
uzicelele, uzibike, uzikhulekele, so that you may receive a personal and individual forgiveness for your sin, and you may come into confrontation. And Pastor, I want to say this before I go further. I understand, because when we deal with this period, we're dealing with a period, it's more than just genzuguti. It is also a period of counseling, spiritual counseling. And therefore I understand ukuthi abantu abavumisayo abanazi iphiwo ezifanayo. Ukhona ovuma kuyena angakusizi ozothi nje uNkulunkulu ahlamba kufelela adlule nje. Ya okunye next. Bese kuba khona ozo would probe and say, but tell me more about this. Is this the first time? Have you done this before? Is it something you are struggling with? How committed are you from changing? And somebody who will then follow up with you. So you need to seek the one that you connect with that will guide you, because this is not about reporting or fulfilling a duty. This is about getting it right for yourself.
Amen.
This is about getting it right for yourself and your relationship with God. And see this as the church opening the door and saying, let us all do our checks. Before we get onto this highway, before we start running fast with the year, let us get everything in check. Obviously, because we are going to a major conference where we come together in the presence of God. But that is not just the goal. The goal is for us, for the entire year, to be in good standing with God. Romans 7. Romans 7, verse 4. Maybe this one.
Anazi yini bazalwane ngikhuluma nabaziyo umthetho ukuthi umuntu ubuswa umthetho ngesikhathi sonke sokuphila kwakhe.
I would love for you to have a microphone.
Romans 7 verse 1. Anazi yini bazalwane ngikhuluma nabaziyo umthetho ukuthi umuntu ubuswa umthetho ngesikhathi sonke sokuphila kwakhe. Umfazi oganileyo uboshiwe ngomthetho endodeni isekhona. Kepha nxa indoda ifile ukhululiwe emthethweni wendoda. Ngakho isekhona indoda uma egana kwenye uyakuthiwa isiphindi. Kepha nxa ifile indoda ukhululiwe emthethweni angebe isiphindi noma eganya kwenye indoda. Njalo bazalwane bami nani senifile emthethweni ngomzimba kaKristu ukuze nigana komunye ulowo ovuka kwabathileyo simvezele uNkulunkulu isithembu. Lapho sasisenyameni ukukhanuka kubi okungomthetho kwasebenza emalungwini ethu size siveze isithelo zokufa. Lapho sisasenyameni ukukhanuka okubi okungomthetho kwasebenza emalungwini ethu size siveze isithelo zokufa. Kepha kalokhu sikhululiwe emthethweni sifile kulokho ebesiboshwe ngakho ukuze sikhonze ngomoya omusha singakhonzi ngegama elidala. Siyakuthini na? Umthetho ukona na? Hayi. Kepha bengingazi ukona ungengomthetho. Bengingazi ukunganela ongashongo umthetho ukuthi unganganeli. Kepha ukona wathola ithuba ngomnyaka wasebenza kimi ukunganela kona. Kepha ukona wathola ithuba ngomnyaka wasebenza kimi ukunganela kona. Ngaphandle komthetho ukona kwakufile. Nani? Ngake ngaphila ukungabikho umthetho. Kepha usufikile umyalo kwavuka ukona ngafa. Umyalo verse 10. Umyalo ngokuphila ngawufumana ungowokufa. Ngokuba ukona kwathola ithuba ngomyalo kwangikhohlisa kwangibulala ngawo. Njalo umthetho uyingcwele nomyalo uyingcwele ulungile muhle. Pho okulungileyo sekuwukufa kimi na? Hayi. Kepha ukona ukuba kubonakale kukona kungenzela ukufa ngokulungileyo kuze kuthi ngomyalo ukona kube ukona okusalelayo. Siyazi umthetho ungowomoya, kepha mina ngingowenyama ngithengiwe ukona. Ngokuba lokhu engikwenzayo angikwazi, lokhu engikuthandayo angikwenzi, kepha lokhu engikuzondayo ngiyakwenza. 15. Ngokuba lokhu engikwenzayo angikwazi, lokhu engikuthandayo angikwenzi, kepha lokhu engikuzondayo ngiyakwenza. Uma ngenza lokhu engikuthandayo ngiyavumela umthetho ngithi ulungile. Asimina okwenzayo kukona okuhlala kimi. 18. Yazi akuhlali okulungileyo kimi ngisho enyameni yami. Kukhona kimi ukuthanda, kepha ukwenza okulungileyo angikufunayo. Okulungileyo engikuthandayo angikwenzi, kepha okubi engikuthandayo ngiyakwenza. Kepha uma ngikwenza lokhu engikuthandayo asimina okwenzayo, kukona okuhlala kimi. Kunjalo ngiyafumana umthetho ukuthi nxa ngithanda ukwenza okulungileyo kukhona okubi kimi.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Although I want to do good, evil is right there with me. The scripture deals with the contest between doing good and sinning, and the contest between wanting to do good but finding yourself doing evil. And I'm going to be brief. I want to not deal with sin today, although I'm going to talk about sin. But I want to talk about habits. And maybe when we talk about habits, which is something a lot of people want to break at the beginning of the year, they want to deal with habits, and particularly bad habits, and then new habits. And maybe that's an easier way and an easier thing to deal with, rather than going for the jugular and talking about sin. Because although we know we are talking about sin, hallelujah.
Amen.
But sin, and particularly in these days, sin at some point, especially when sin has overtaken us, no longer presents itself as sin, and we no longer understand it as sin, which is why we may not even feel like confessing that. But sin presents itself as habit, and habit is something that we have become accustomed to and we have accepted as part of us, as a behavior that is okay with us and may even be okay with people around us, and it becomes part of our lifestyle without realizing that in our habit there is sin, and that we are actually sinning, which is creating spiritual decay in us. So if we are going to deal with sin, and if we are going to uproot sin, if we are going to confront sin, one of the things I want us to reflect on today, it's just habits. Certain habits that are sinful in nature. We could call them habitual sins. Habits that are sinful in nature that cement a sinful life in us. Paul talks about law. First of all, he says, look, how we got to know about sin. We didn't know about sin, and I'm going to paraphrase. He says, how we got to know about sin was through law. And there is law that binds us to a particular life. So he makes an example. He says, if a woman is married to a man, that woman is bound to her husband for as long as he is alive. And if she goes and has sexual relations with another man whilst her husband is alive, she is committing adultery, and that is law. But when the husband dies, she is free to be with somebody else, and she would not be charged with adultery because the law commands that. That is law. And then he goes on to talk about himself. He says, I once lived a life apart from law, where there was no law. And I did things, and I did not know that I was sinning, until the law came and said, do not covet. And when the law came, I realized that I'm sinning. In other words, now what Paul says, which he gets misunderstood in, he says, the law caused me to sin. But he's not blaming the law for sinning. He's saying, by bringing the awareness to mind, the law brought sin to my life. The law caused what I am doing, which has become a lifestyle, and I see no wrong in it, to be defined as sin. So law gives birth to sin. Now, he says we are free from law. We've been freed from the law, but we are freed from law as one being free from one man in order to marry another man. So whilst we are free from the law, we have now been married to the Spirit, a new Spirit, so that we may live according to the Spirit, in the order of the Spirit. And the Bible says somewhere else, I think it's in Romans, it says, "Umasphila ngomoya, asihambe ngomoya." If we live according to the Spirit, let us walk in the Spirit. And so the Spirit has got its own laws. In as much as there is the law that was given to Moses, and that was the prescriptions on how to live, and people were freed from that through the cross, and we entered into Christ through the Spirit. The Spirit comes with its own laws. And Christ himself says, so the law of Moses still applies, but it is made easy for us because it is no longer about duty, it is about love. Hallelujah.
Amen.
He says, when I then became aware of the law, I realized that I have certain passions in my flesh that causes me to sin. And when I listen to the law, when the law says do not do this, it is like when people say do not think of a pink elephant. Immediately you think of a pink elephant. When the law said do not do this, he says it actually fired up a desire in me to do exactly what the law says I must not do. So the weakness of the law, and that is why when we talk about not being bound by the law, because the law was found weak in that by saying do not do this, because of our nature and our flesh, our sinful nature, the very law actually propelled the need, the want to do it. Because why? We are rebellious in nature. So we are ways of good. And that is a disobedience. But that is the nature of humans. I do it because to amanga ways. You see it with children. When you say to a child, do not do this, they do it and then they look at you to see what is the consequence. Are you going to hit me? Is something going to break? Am I going to get injured? I want to see what's going to happen. And of course, the more they do it and there is no consequence, there is no immediate consequence, the more they believe it is okay to do it. It is when there is immediate consequence, whether they get burnt or they get injured, that they start realizing this is dangerous. In our human nature, we have the propensity to always challenge it. When the law of God says, do not do this, I want to do it and see what will happen. And Paul then says, sin found an opportunity in the commandment. Sin found an opportunity in yatolunyango emthethweni. And that is how I was defeated, when sin used what is good in order to cause me to sin. Hallelujah.
Amen.
And because of that, he says, I find myself, what I want to do, I do not do. And what I do not want to do, I do. And I hate what I do. I find myself in this cycle where I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what is good because the law has taught me what is good. But I find myself doing things that I do not want to do. And the things that I've said I want to do and the things that I know I should do, those are the things I struggle with doing and I don't do them. And I find myself doing what I hate doing. Hallelujah.
Amen.
And I've come to realize that when I want to do good, evil is right there with me. We come today to reflect, to pray, and to confess. And firstly, praying reflecting over our rebellious nature. If there's one thing at the beginning that one needs to reflect on is, where am I rebellious? Where am I struggling in my relationship with God, in my obedience towards the Word of God? What is it that God wants from me that I am acting against, or thinking against, or speaking against, arguing against? These are the things that you may not even have gone and broken the law, but a questioning mind, and particularly today we live in a world that says question everything, and it's good. We question everything. But a questioning mind that questions the precepts of God, the law of God, to say, what are the things that God has said do not, that I find myself doing? What are the things that God has said to me, be careful of, that I find myself venturing into? What are the things that God has said to me, live this life, that I find myself living a different life? Where am I being rebellious and therefore disobedient with God? Hallelujah.
Amen. Amen.
Secondly, we are here to confess and reflect on the things that have become voluntary, the things that have become almost, we are on autopilot when we do them. He says, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what is good. But I find myself doing the total opposite. So there are people who, if you think about Abraham got to a point where, I want to say, lying became habitual to him. He gets to Egypt and they ask him, is this your wife or is? He says, no, that's my sister. And the king takes the sister, only to find no, but this is the wife. And he does it again somewhere else. He says, but no, this is my wife. He's looking for a particular opportunity and favor, but he has an agreement with Sarah that says, because Oscar's one is because they would want you. So you are my sister and you are free. And Sarah agrees, and she goes into the king's chambers. And as they are sleeping, and the king, just before he touched her, the Spirit of God comes over him and says, do not touch him. Do not touch her. Because this is that man's wife. And if you do so, you will be calling the curse over your life. And he says, but God, that man said, this is his sister. And God said, no, he lied, it's not. It had become a habit for him. And sometimes we have certain habits, and particularly when it comes to lies, when we find ourselves under pressure, or when we want a particular outcome, we want to control an outcome and get to a particular outcome. We do something that we know is wrong, we know is untrue, but because we want to get to that end, we do it. And like Jacob's brothers, we say, but I've killed no one. There's no blood in my hands. I simply wanted to achieve this and I've got it. But you have offended God. And you have sinned in the eyes of God. And that becomes a habit. That becomes a lifestyle. It becomes a way of doing things. So for some people, it is the lies. They lie to get themselves through situations. They lie to get themselves out of tricky and sticky situations. They lie in order to get to a particular outcome. For other people, it is it has become their modus operandi. They lie. Sorry, they gossip. So ubona nje bekhombana ngamehlo. Ahlebe ayiqeda indaba uthe nje Job ngayehlo wabheka le wasmile. Qedile. Sebeqedile bahlebile baqedile ngamehlo. Uyibuza ukuthi when did this start? It's actually a long-standing conversation between the two people. And so that look is a confirmation. The active gossipers who see no wrong with their gossiping. They know they shouldn't do it. You know you shouldn't be gossiping. You know you shouldn't be talking about somebody in their absence. But you get to a point where you give yourself the permission, the license. Aw. Uyobetshela ubani. Akezu so angakuzwanga kuzukumlimaza. And some people will say, engani ngikhuluma iqiniso nje. So ngoneni ngoba vele uyazi naye ukuthi unjani. But you are not saying it in their eyes. You say what you think. You say what you saw them do or what you heard them do. You say what you think about what they've done. You say what you think about them. You say what you think about the results of their decisions and how they will become this and this and that. You know, and you can go back into their history ngoba kunje ngoba usuke endaweni ethile and umqeda umuntu unpack in their absence. There are people who are habitual gossipers. And so for them, it's not a sin. Angoni, ngiyakhuluma. Angoni ngiyakhuluma. But the Bible is very clear about gossiping. It doesn't matter whether what you are talking about is true or not. But the fact that you are talking about this person in their absence and something that you potentially would not say in their presence, you are sinning. So these are the habits that cause us to become evil without our intention to become evil. You don't go out and say, I want to be evil. But you get to a point where you become this person. For other people, it is a response, an emotional response. You are known as, I don't want to say as an angry person, but you've got a short fuse. You are known to have a short fuse. And when you are pressed and you find yourself being impatient with something, your immediate response is anger. Your immediate response is irritation. And we pin that to a personality, we pin that to a character, a whole lot of things, but your immediate response is irritation, annoyance, anger. And you are known to be this person. And sometimes you may be known as a person who doesn't have grace. Namthinti. And for some, I don't know sugar. Can I swear at church? Bloody hell, no sugar. I don't have sugar. Ugusa. These are the habits that people get to, and they find themselves living a life that offends God, that creates the error in their walk with God, but they have justified it. They've justified it. We can talk about sin, and we can talk about the acts that men, for example, do. But when the Bible talks about coveting, for some men it is natural. We see it as natural to look and have a second look, and maybe even pass a comment when you see a woman. It becomes a habit. It becomes a lifestyle. But that lifestyle leads to lust. You haven't done anything with the woman, but it leads to lust. And lust is a sin. You have not done anything, but lust is a sin. But it is habitual that you are the kind of person. I was having a conversation somewhere, and someone says, we need to reinforce a law which abantu besifazane bangagqoki impahla eziyifuba, because apparently women, and let me just look around, but somebody was saying we need to reinforce because there's more and more women that are showing their cleavage in church. I don't see cleavage here, but there could be some that now, and that is an issue to deal with if it is an issue. But in that moment I had to deal with what I was hearing, and I said, but what is it about that worries you? What is it about that worries you? And what is it about that offends you? And what is it about that causes you to trip? Because here's the reality. A lot of women outside church dress like that. So if you are made weak by the 4 hours of sitting with women, I look this side for a short while, but I'm looking all over the place. Why would I gaze at your cleavage? I mean, of course, if it's there and it's look at me, eventually I will, but why would I gaze at your cleavage? But I was dealing with something else that says, and this is the norm, the culture we come from, that places a responsibility on the woman that says she must dress appropriately so that I can be safe. Because if she's dressed inappropriately for me, then I'm not responsible for my actions and my thoughts. You are fully responsible for your thoughts. You are absolutely fully responsible for your thoughts. Until you get to a point where she can walk in wearing a very short skirt and a vest, a figala, and you look at them and you say, "When's Enjan?" And you walk away, and it doesn't affect you. Until you get to that point, you need to deal with what is happening in your mind. Is your mind spiritual? Is your mind? Because if it is not, you don't need a cleavage to have lust. You don't need a cleavage to fall. You don't need a cleavage to sin. If your mind is that wired, there are women abaphiwe. There are women abaphiwe in their bust, baphiwe on their lower end. And noma egqokile ingubo yakhe ephelele, but you will still be complaining about the fact that but now what must she do with her parts? Because uphiwe. Or you'll be complaining about because your mind is there. Amen. So that's what you must deal with. Amen. And that's what needs to be saved. Your mind needs to be saved. Amen. And once your mind is saved, the whole nation will be saved. Amen. Dealing with habits. And these are things that we look at and we say, these are lifestyles. They've become lifestyles. And until you see the danger in it, yes, it is okay to say, but until you see the danger in it, when you are married, you have a lot of women coming to you. A lot of men get private messages on various social media platforms. And it is something that is between you and the person who sent a private message. And you have no obligation to declare it to anybody. So a lot of men today, I preached about that a couple of years ago, to say today you get approached. We need to prepare young men for the fact that today you get approached by women. Today, women come and ask you out. And if it's a confrontation face to face, they will flirt with you. Women flirt these days. I'm beginning to realize women at church flirt as well. No one has flirted with me, but I'm just saying, women flirt. But outside church, women flirt. And women will make it known to you that they want you. Secondly, women will throw a DM into you, or women will drop a text or whatever it is. However they reach you, women will find you. We're living with women that are so bold today. And it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. And they are so bold. But they will make it known to you that they want you. They will be in your space. They will be in your circle. They want you. And when you are dating or courting a woman, if a woman wants you in bed, she will get you in bed. Period. Noma inkosana efunda iBhayibheli njengoqiniso masabatha. If a woman wants you, she will get you. She will make it known that she wants you. And for a lot of women, they know your weakness. Now I'm talking about women in general, not women in the church. Your mind must be very clear. Your mind must be very made up. Your heart must be very solid. Your resolve must be solid to say, this is the life I've chosen. And when I talk about what I want, and so you do things knowing that I should not be doing this. But you do it and you say, I have no control of what Paul is talking about. And he's not talking about himself. He's talking about the life of a sinner. And he's saying you get to a point where sin becomes more powerful than you are. When you allow habits in your life to set, it gets to a point where you lose your power and sin becomes more powerful over you. It doesn't mean that you have no knowledge of what is right. You've got knowledge. But knowledge doesn't save you. It doesn't mean you've got no desire to live a good life. You've got desire. But desire for a good life. A lot of good men, a lot of good men of God, a lot of good men fired up for the gospel of Christ still fell. Not because they didn't have the desire. They had the knowledge, they had the desire. But the third requirement is power. And where people fall is power. Spiritual power and control over your body and over your mind. Do you have the power over your body and over your mind? Don't tell me about knowledge of the Bible. Don't tell me about your desire to live a good life. Do you have power to live a good life? Because we now know that it is actually more difficult to live a good life. It is easier to live a sinful life. It is very easy to live a sinful life. Amen. But you never know this. You never know how easy it is to live a sinful life until you try to be good. When you start trying to live a good life and being good in every area of your life, that's when you realize how difficult it is to be good. It is difficult to always choose the right thing. It takes willpower. It takes spiritual power. It takes mind power. It takes all the power you have and all the power that is given to you spiritually. It takes all of that for you to live a good life. Not only when you are young, even when you are married, to live a good life, to be a good husband. To be a good husband. It takes willpower. I was saying to somebody, and this is just me fooling around, I think the universe is tricking us. More and more beautiful girls are being born. And you're like, but hey, I thought I wanna dala. When a woman was beautiful, why you come? Hey, move. Mortally so wait like a pinville. And somebody 2 or 3 girls today, it is galore. Everywhere you turn, there's beautiful women. Hallelujah. Everywhere you turn. Even women that are not necessarily very beautiful. But because with all the things as Nzuza and women just are beautiful. As women are beautiful, everywhere you turn there is beauty. Everywhere you turn there is beauty. And so when you are married and you are in your mid-40s and your wife has had 2 children, and you look at her and you think, and and you leave church and you go out to work or wherever you go, you will find 10 women that are more beautiful than your wife. The knowledge that you are a married man is not going to help you. The desire to be a faithful husband is not going to help you either. It is the power. Do you have the willpower to resist a beautiful woman?
Amen.
Do you have the willpower to resist a sexually strong woman?
Amen.
Coming onto you? No knowledge will help, no desire will help. Do you have the willpower? And I am here to say that power does not come from our knowledge, from our mind. It comes from God.
Amen.
It comes from God. It comes from a relationship with God. You see men that are strong in the faith, struggling with women, falling. And I'm not passing a judgment over the relationship, but I'm saying it shows that even the knowledge of God and walking close with God is I don't want to say it's not enough, but you need more. We are here for more blessing. Hallelujah. You need more. You need more. You need more from God. You need power from God to be able to withstand. To be able to withstand. Everything I've said applies to every woman. Everything I've said applies to women, because women have always been known to be victims of men, but women today have, and a lot of women have this thing today in them, that I can do anything, I can be anything, and it is the truth. You can't do anything and you can't be anything, and you should do anything and be anything. However, right in there lies the trick, that there's a certain blessing that is in you as a woman that requires you to submit to the laws of God. And so much as a woman would say, I can do anything that a man does, which is true, it is very true. But you step back and say, but am I called to do anything and everything? Am I called to do anything and everything? And we live in a time where a lot of women, because of the competition and it's even beyond competition. You know, today, in the past, we used to say when you are single, you know, there's competition and everybody wants a man. But today, even when you are married, you are in competition. You are competing. You are competing with single people out there. Being married guarantees you not. And sometimes we are even competing with other married people, because married people start swapping and doing all funny things. You are competing with married people, other men's wives. Yeah? Do you have the will power? Do you have the power to stand in your spiritual truth and not be moved and not be shaken by any of those things? You know, I've just given a lot to men, and I think you need a woman to talk to you as a woman. You need a woman to talk to you as a woman. But one of the things that is clear to me today for women talking lifestyle is that there's so much freedom that women have today, which is great. But there's so much freedom that women have today, which is dangerous for women. It's dangerous for women. And it becomes the source of pain for a lot of women. You see a lot of beautiful women out there, successful in every way, but their lives, and when people talk about their lives, they bleed of this blessing that I'm talking about. They bleed because they are not powerful when it comes to, let me just use the word, their morality. They are not powerful when it comes to their morality. They find themselves compromised, successful in every respect, beautiful in every way, but compromised when it comes to their morality. And you ask yourself, why is this beautiful woman not married? And not every woman wants to get married. Not every woman wants to get, and it is the truth. However, there are certain women that want to get married, should be married, beautiful, successful in every respect, but when it comes to this part of their lives, and when I stand here as a leader over this church, one of the things that pains me is I don't want us to get to a point where women have a reputation in the church. Where women have a reputation in the church. Where you are one of those women that in the church it is known that and because of the life that we're living, the lifestyles that's out there, people find themselves being very free. We have very fluid relationships. You know, and it's just fluid. It is fluid in the church. And the same applies with men. There are young men in the church who come in and out of the church, and there's fluidity in the relationships. And it is because it has become a habit. It is a habit. It is a habit that says, I'm friendly with guys, I don't have much boundaries, I can have tea or drinks with you, I can visit you, you can visit me, we can get physical as in touchy, and beyond that, hey, if it leads to something, it leads to that, and it is one of the things, it is one of the things that starts affecting your life spiritually. So this is a service that says, how do we come back to God? How do we come back in every way? But most importantly, how do we regain our spiritual power? How do we regain our spiritual power where we've been losing power? Where we've been giving away our power? Amen. We're dealing with a generation where our lifestyles, there are a lot of people who look up to us. Not only because you are successful, but because you may be seen to be trendy, relevant in whatever way. And there are people who live publicly. You may not even be a public figure, but a normal person in the church. But publicly, you do things or you display things that go against the Word of God, and therefore go against the values of the church. But because you've given yourself the permission to do it, you are quite open about it. It's all over social media, it's all over. People know this is the life you lead. These are some of the struggles that we deal with, because you are here at church, you are committed to church, you are one of the important people at church, but your life out there clashes with some of the values that we uphold as a church. And because of the admiration that younger people or even your peers give to you, you are not aware of the level of influence that you have over them, psychologically and spiritually. So you may say, I have not sinned because I'm living my truth. But what happens when your truth leads to somebody tripping spiritually? And what happens when your truth, you know that this goes against the values and the word that I subscribe to, but I've chosen to live this life. And so part of my appeal is, if you really love God and if you really love the church, and if you choose a particular sin as your lifestyle, can you do it discreetly? And somebody might say, are we promoting sin and saying do it discreetly? No. But I'm also saying, whilst we are negotiating our way spiritually and negotiating our lives with God and negotiating our terms with God, this is an individual relationship. Part of the struggle in winning people completely spiritually is that if you see me, and I'm somewhat active on social media, if you see me do certain things on social media that I have decided are okay for me, if you then see me do that, it says it is okay, even though I don't preach it. But because I have influence over you, you look up to me, I cause you to do it. And part of that is that habit. It is that habit of, this is my life. So I want us to reflect on these things. What is it that we have allowed to come into our lives? And I'm going to say, serious or not serious. Serious or not serious. But I know that sin does not know anything that is not serious. Because sin is definitely serious with us. So those things that are minor, that are creeping in, to get to a point where sin says, I'm in power, I'm in control. You just do. I tell you what to do, you just do. I give you the energy, the electricity in your body, you just do. What are those things that have become second nature, that have become acceptable, that have become okay for all of us? That we can say today, Lord, if I'm going to mine and go deeper into the blessings, into my walk with you, help me with this. May God lead us into all truth. In Proverbs 28, verse 13. Proverbs 28, verse 13. Siya emthandazweni. It reads, whoever conceals their sin does not prosper, but the one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy. Whoever conceals their sin does not prosper, but the one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy. uNkulunkulu abusisi ibandla lonke ukuthule evangelini ngcwele. Amen. Vuma nini, vuma nini, vuma.